In a time where Ninjago vehicles are thrown in and out of the show, I find myself increasingly appreciating the ones that have heart and solid integration into the show. The elemental vehicles from season 1 of Ninjago are no different. These sets were defined by cool transformation features made more special since they're the ninja's very first vehicles, and they got some of the highest screen times compared to most Ninjago vehicles. All this contributed to these 4 vehicles being incredibly iconic. When the golden weapons came back twice, once in March of the Oni and the second in Crystallized, I was really hoping both times that they'd form elemental vehicles because the concept of forming a vehicle out of a weapon is just so insanely cool. Unfortunately, the golden weapons never really reached their full power again, so we were never able to see the ninja use this awesome ability. However, today we're going to change that. In light of the 15th anniversary of Ninjago, we're going to imagine what if the ninja put on their old gis one last time, repowered their golden weapons, fought some old and new snake tribes that have banded together and think they have a chance at taking Ninjago. What vehicles would the ninja form with their powers and ride into battle this time? Starting off with Jay, I decided that he would probably still want to make a jet given the choice, but I definitely did want to add a twist to it, and by twist, I mean I built a gearbox in the middle to be able to spin an axle, which will make sense in a bit. Then I took some time to design engine pods. They started off with azure parts, then slowly built to a gradient going into dark blue. I ended up really liking this celebration of Lego's blue color palette, so it ended up being the logic I used to color block the rest of the jet. At the bottom, I built some engine greebling and attached them to the axle from earlier. This allowed the jet to change speeds when flying and to stabilize when landing. For the fuselage, I built a large cool yellow plate and some engine piping with exhausts on the side for some visual contrast. The canopy was the biggest challenge because I wanted to do something new and creative instead of sticking to the usual geometries Lego tends to follow. So I took these ball joints and built fuselage plates that angle and lock in place thanks to this gray cheese slope up front. For the nose, I actually built it upside down so the light blue side could be on the bottom. I attached it via ball joints again and built a lid to cover up the anti-studs to stay consistent with the interweaving blues of the rest of the build. Inside, I put in some good old tan parts to make it comfy alongside 2 joysticks and an electronics board for Jay to monitor. The windshield also had to be built on 2 joints so it sloped properly with the rest of the jet. And finally, after adding some finishing touches like some dark blue coverage on the wings, blasters, electrified headlights, tail fins, so many trans yellow lightning parts, and ever so importantly, a place to put the nunchucks of lightning. We were finally done with Jay's Storm Drifter. This set comes with Jay, Nia is Samurai X because they love each other or whatever, plus a Fangpyre hoverboard side build to fight, armed with flaming exhaust, sharp teeth, and Snappa, who has left his reformed tribe to go evil again, holding a giant javelin to throw into the jet's weak spots and sabotage Jay. Moving on, we have Kai, and the happiest I've seen him in a vehicle was when he had the X1 Ninja Charger. The soundtrack that plays during that scene is literally called the X1 Joyride. So I feel that if he made an elemental vehicle today, he'd make a car with comparable flashiness and sheer brute force on full display. So with that in mind, I took the 4 most rugged tires I could find and put them on a chassis. After messing around with the proportions for a long time, I prioritized the rest of the play functions the car would be based around. I first took a 5x5 right angle Technic brick and put it on a hinge so a Technic gear could be at an angle when it touches the axle gear for a spinning flame feature that would be incorporated later on. And for some reason, I wanted to incorporate a steering function. I don't remember why, but it ended up being a total nightmare throughout the entire build. I kept running into problems like the axles pulling themselves apart or the wheels rubbing up on the main body of the car. However, in the end, I was able to make a mechanism that was small enough to build over in an aesthetically pleasing manner. For fenders, I found that the special mold introduced with the elemental mech line was extremely fitting. However, they wouldn't work when I put them in the front because the tires could turn, meaning they had to move with the tires. So I ended up building these gigantic wheel covers that could be attached directly to the wheel, as well as put an axle below them so they didn't fall. Now the wheel and the wheel covers can move together. With all the technical stuff done, it was finally time to add some swagger and truly make this something that Kai would approve. The windshield was attached via ball joints, and I built a large hood using black parts primarily in the fuselage area to give this a smoky look while also blending the black Technic bar that steered the car as best as possible. Couldn't just cover it up since this needed to be accessible and easy to use while playing with the car, so putting in black seemed like the best solution to me. I also made the frame for the windshield super curvy to add a classy twist to the Master of Fire's normal look. Inside there's a steering wheel and stick shift for Kai, and right behind him you can conveniently attach the Sword of Fire. Behind the sword, I finally added details around the gear mechanisms I built earlier to give this car twin flaming exhausts that spin as you roll it. And finally, I built a very industrial looking front grille to make the steering mechanism parts not look out of place. These flexible gold rods with teeth and lights attached to it will definitely make enemies think twice about messing with the Red Ninja. This set comes with Kai, Lloyd, and Lasha using an upside down scuba tank as a fuel tank for his rocket skates in order to get up to Kai and slash his tires using his dual wielded machetes. For Cole, I was going to completely flip the script. He made the tread assault the first time, but it's pretty clear that Coles and mechs go deep. Quite literally actually, since he found his mom's mech in one of the deepest points of Ninjago. I started off by building the framework for the chest. This included the large ratchet joints for the legs and some smaller ones for the arms. I then started to build out the paneling for the torso. I used these elemental mech panel pieces again, which work really well for the curvature of the chest. Then I built these large panels with gold reinforcing, put that on a hinge and attached it to the main build to cover up remaining cavities. After adding some finishing touches like cushions for Cole, I got to building a head using these angled black pieces for a mouth and a 4x1 double slope framed by some gold blades to give it some attitude and armor. The gorilla vibe was inspired by Cole's heavy gorilla symbolism in the Ninjago movie and updated elemental symbol in Ninjago Legacy. Continuing with the upper body, I built these really bulky shoulders, then forearms starting to slowly show some earth energy bursting through, and finally the hands fitted with some claws, completely letting it out with bits of packed dirt to make it look like Cole used multiple materials around him to make this mech just like he does with his golem form in the show. The arms in general are supposed to be inspired by his lava arm power, so Cole should be able to throw some serious hands with this mech. Moving on to the legs, I will say I struggled quite a bit trying to get the size and length of the legs just right. In the end, I used these climber hooks with some hinged black curves on top for some greebling, gave the calves and thighs some beefy muscles, put in a nook to attach these scythoquakes, and finally built some feet with trans orange parts to simulate lava seeping through. One side has rock plating while the other has packed dirt to not only match with the underside of the legs, but also keep reinforcing that this was built out of multiple earth materials. I also built these boulder assemblies to attach to the shins and provide a smoother transition from the legs to the feet. With that, we had finished Cole's Lava Basher. Figures include Cole, Master Wu, since they're super close, and an Anacondrae warrior with some meat and a club made out of some poor victim's skull. I felt that the Anacondrae, being the strongest serpentine, felt fitting to go up against Cole, who's known for his sheer brute strength. Finally, for Zane, I was stuck between making either a helicopter or snowmobile. The logical answer was to just make a little bit of both. I took these giant slope pieces and some Technic bricks to make gigantic skis. Then I spent a lot of time working on the elaborate Technic frame inside to give the front a little bit of a bend while still being able to spin the top rotor from the back, a lot like the Shuricopter. The top rotor itself uses these angled Technic extension sockets to give the blade a shuriken-like look. Starting to finally flesh this out, the canopy is built out of these slopes and various different blasters at the base. Then came in some seating, a backrest, control panels, and a windshield piece first introduced with sea-bound submersible vehicles for Zane to see through. I also built these Technic assemblies with white flaps attached before putting in all the final outside fuselage details. Now once you put Zane inside and close up the canopy, you can remotely shoot off some high-speed energy blasts at enemies. I then added some finishing details to cover up the top, built a couple assemblies to cover the exposed Technic on the sides, added gold trims, and these neat artillery sub-assemblies to further beef it up. Oh, and couldn't forget this flap in the back you can lift up to reveal a spot to hold Zane's shurikens of ice. With all that done, we were on to the final stretch. I built a column using so many of these black ring parts inserted around a smaller white pillar that connected to the rotor of the helicopter. Then put the foundation in for the jets. On the side of this foundation, I built two black circle plates and attached it by a Technic axle so the studs could face both sides, allowing me to build on two planes. The front has an ornate dragon symbol with a ring to frame the dragon, and the back is built with these large gray and dark gray segments with hints of ice energy coming out at a couple points for an industrial look. And finally, I built 3 of these blue boost assemblies using some trans light blue parts to install on the back thrusters, bringing these babies to life. And with that, we could finally activate the main feature of this set. The thrusters in the back can be spun to spin the rotors on top. I gotta say, as far as features go, this one has to be my favorite and best one yet, working in tandem with the spring-loaded missiles in the front. The spinning boosters make this so dynamic and fun to fly around. Figures included here are Zane, a snake warrior ready with a quiver and crossbow to shoot at the frosticopter, and another snake warrior equipped with a jetpack and sickle so he can latch on to Zane's helicopter and do some damage. And with that, we have built a modern reimagined set line of how the elemental vehicles would look if they were formed again today. The last thing to do was get some box art to make it even more official. After a lengthy photo shoot, we were able to make some amazing box art for Jay's Stormdrifter, Kai's Inferno 4x4, Cole's Lava Basher, and Zane's Frosticopter. I am so happy with how all of this turned out and how they all look together. Thank you so much for making it through the entire video. It really means a lot. And as usual, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.